Whoop, 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 whoop. Hands up, you guys. I'm here to collect some things. Specifically, I'm here to collect your heart. Okay, like, go with me on this. Go with me on this. I got nothing. I was just trying to get something to go with my hat, and that made sense. So pay up. Put it right here in my hand. It's waiting. I only take them voluntarily, so at least you're safe with that. Anyway, I'm not even gonna like if you don't want to give me your heart for collection, well, the bad person is gone. That hat will sit right over here though. Intimidating in the background. Anyway, that goes with today's theme. Hello everybody, welcome. My name is Ian Pattycake. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer. I remember what I am. And today is the first video of the month, and so we are doing LMIAY. Welcome. This is the day where I give you a prompt and we celebrate your creativity in the different ways that you guys approach the prompts. I'm so excited to talk about to go through today's submissions, this month's submissions. But before we get started, number one, how are you doing? How are you doing this month? This is totally not on my usual list of things to do, but I wanted to bring it up anyway. I want to try. Initially, I was thinking of like a video, but I think I just want to do a post instead, where monthly we just get to share our good news, whatever your good news is. And it can just be that you feel good. It can be whatever level of good news that you are. I want to spread not just positivity, but also to give a place to just talk about what you're doing, what you're happy about, what's going on. So like if you launch a book or a game or a board game or like literally anything, if you have a link to something, I want you to put it in a comment if you want to share it to direct people to it, because I want to share victories. I want people to share victories. I want to celebrate people's victories. So if you feel so inclined, I think I'm just going to start posting a monthly tab where you can share literally anything that you want to share about like whatever you're happy about. And there is not a single thing that is wrong. There is no wrong answer, because live your best life. You know, it's even like the little things that can just be so great that just make life livable. Oh, I had a really good meal. Oh, I got a figurine. Like literally anything. So keep that in mind. You'll see one for this month, but I think I'm gonna do it just going forward, and we're gonna celebrate whatever wins everybody has. Please, positivity and just a place to share. Okay, so now going on to the real things. Number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way is to be on this. Like this has been happening for, I feel like at least 3 years now, like every month. I think was there a month where we only had two or three submissions? But I think we've done it every month for like 3 years. So this is the thing where I give you a prompt, you write a short story using that prompt, and on the first video of the month at the moment, because I've gone down to one video a week, on the first video of the month, we bask in your creativity and just celebrate. This is not really a place for critical feedback. It's just a place to play, to have fun. It's meant to be a playground, and you don't have to be a writer. Just have fun, do whatever you want to do, as long as it fits the prompt. The second way is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out, if you submit the first chapter and the cover to the feature, the Fresh Meat feature, that chapter will be read here on the channel to hopefully help more people find your work. The Monday features will be coming back at some point, just not at the moment, maybe in January, because one video a month seems more doable right now for me. And then we have Crit This, where if you're writing something and you would actually like critical feedback of some kind and it to be discussed on the channel, submit according to the guidelines there, and I will critically feedback it here. Chapter by chapter if it is a longer work, because it is just segmented. Or finally, there is a section to submit books that you would like me to read. And so when I'm reaching for a new book to read that's not from my reading list, I'll go in there and I'll read it. I may select it. So those are different ways. Sometimes if you mention them in my comments below, I can also just pick them up from there. So it just depends. But if you would like, just familiarize yourself with the way that I do feedback. And I'm not trying to be mean to books. I just tell you what I see. And if I enjoy it, I'll let you know. And if I see issues, I'll let you know. But anything that I say in any of my videos is entirely personal opinion, completely subjective, and I just may not be your audience, but I could be your audience. Who knows? There are so many different types of readers. But anyway, so there's all of that. And then third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. And my newest novel, I can now call it by its formal name, which is American Princess. And my newest novel, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, Book 1, which is called American Princess, is actually, revision is over. Like, it is in editing. I have been reading it and editing it the last couple of days and been having so much fun with it. It's such a different experience to get out of writing in revision and to just get to read it in its natural state of how it should be. Not that I'm not making changes on it, but I am having so much fun reading it. I like it so much more right now than I did when I was revising it, where it felt like a problem child. But being able to read it with its normal pacing and just how it goes through and not having that creative critical brain has been so good, and I'm so excited to share it. I might actually have a first version of it for beta readers before the end of the month. Honestly, it's that close. So if you're interested, be in contact. The people that have already mentioned that they're interested, if I normally talk to you, I will remember to send it to you, but it's coming. It's coming, and I'm so excited to share it. And I hope that it is enjoyable, and I hope that it is as enjoyable for you as it is for me. It is definitely being released next year, and yeah, then it's gonna be on to the second book in the series. It's a never-ending process, honestly. But yeah. So with that all said, I know that was a lot. Let's jump into the actual submissions and see what you guys have cooked up. So the prompt this month was a scene or situation involving a harvest or collection. You can interpret collection how you'd like. I don't even remember what I was thinking when I did that one. Also, oh my gosh. The next two prompts are so fun, I think. I think when I was doing the prompt for December, I was thinking of an anthology that I was reading at the time and just how fun those can be. Specifically, like the theme of if I say the theme of the anthology, okay, I'll go ahead and say it because otherwise it's just too vague. The theme of next month is to create your own mythology or to share a mythology that you've made. And earlier this year, I haven't finished it. It's a thick book. I started reading an anthology of Native American folklore and mythology. And like that stuff is just, mythology in general is so interesting, and folklore in general is so interesting. And just like the casual mysticism of it. There was one story, this is the one that I like remember the most, but if I went through it, like there's the corn girl as well. But oh my gosh, now that I'm thinking about it, the corn one is where like the mother asks the family to kill her and then use her body to give life to the plants so that everybody can eat. And dragging her body like across the corn helps the corn grow or something. And then the other one, that was the chick that that was this girl where her brothers were going out into the woods to go hunting while she stayed home. And every day one less brother came until she had nobody. And then she went to kill herself because she was so alone. So she ate a rock, and that rock actually turned into a child in her stomach instead of choking her. And then she gave birth to this rock child that, just looked like her, but it was the rock that she swallowed impregnated her. And then she gave birth, and then that child grew up and then went hunting one day, and she feared that he would suffer the same fate as her brothers. And instead, he ended up hearing something, because he had a connection to the earth, that led him to this house where like a witch lived, and the brothers had all turned into like been turned into trophies by this witch lady. And the sister ended up freeing them with the help of her rock son. And just like, you could do such things with mythology. It's so interesting, and like the meanings behind it. So that's one of the reasons why I was like, share your mythology, because it's just so cool. And so I'm looking forward to that. So this is a complete side tangent on next month. And then the month after that, I'm not going to spoil that, but I'm hoping y'all have fun with the LMIAYs as much as I have with reading them. And with that said, let me reminder what we're here for today, which is a scene or situation involving a harvest or collection. And the first submission is from Mae Tanner. Do you always eat that part first? You ate end meal the same way. Delos grinned at Kithla. Thighs are the best meat. Would you like to try some? She stared at the body. Maybe a mouthful. He bit off a chunk and handed it to her. She sniffed and licked it, then made a face. I don't like it. She offered it to a small dog at the back of the pack. It accepted the treat and licked her hand. Delos chuckled. Looks like you made a friend. He gestured toward the dog devouring the other corpse. They eat the organs first, but they'll strip the body to the bones. He returned feasting, savoring each bite. Kithla's delight in watching him eat pleased him. Throughout his life, his eating had repulsed people, even when he ate normal food. His belly full, he led her to the nearest sewer entrance. This is the way to the river. I need to clean up. Mama wouldn't understand if I had blood on my clothes. Why don't you wash in this water? She pointed to the channel between the walkway where debris-filled water flowed towards the river. Delos made a face. That's dirty water. I want to wash in clean water. He paused at a stretch of tunnel between two intersections. What was that sound? Is something wrong? Shh, I thought I heard something. Kithla glanced up and down the tunnel, her eyes wide. Does anything live down here? Maybe it's a rat. I've caught rats down here. He frowned. It hadn't sounded like a rat. Let's keep moving. We're nearly there. When they reached the next intersection, several people emerged from the side tunnels. The newcomer tossed nets over him. Delos futilely clawed at the metal strands. Minutes later, the stranger had wrapped him in a net. His captors fished his wrists out of the net, twisted them behind his back, and attached manacles. They stuffed a wad of cloth in his mouth and pulled a sack over his head. Someone untangled his ankles and manacled them. Once they secured him, they removed the net and pulled him to his feet. They shoved him from behind and pulled him from in front. He stumbled forward, his stride hampered by the manacles. Kithla's sob broke the quiet that followed their capture. A soft voice murmured soothingly. They traveled intermittently. Delos built a raging thirst. He usually drank after feasting, and the cloth in his mouth didn't help. They halted, catching him off guard, and he fell to his knees. Kithla cried out, and someone dragged him to his feet. After a heavy metallic clunk, they were on the move again. The chill damp of the sewers faded, and the air warmed. From behind him, the metallic clunk echoed soft. His captors increased his pace and dragged him when he couldn't keep up. Something creaked. They dropped him on hard floor and left him there. There was another creak, followed by steps fading in the distance. I mean, that is definitely a collection, a people collection. I'm sorry, bro. You seem like you're about to have a little bit of difficulty. I don't think that this is gonna turn out very well. These guys seem very organized. Good luck to you, bro. That also had great setting. Like, there's not a whole lot of description in it, but I could feel where they were, especially leading into the sewer. Great job. The next story is by M.K. McKeever. Andrus Strange sauntered into the pod like he owned it, eyes looking over the kitchen with disdain as Jocasta instinctively scooped up Jill, huddling into the corner with her mother and brothers. He was followed quickly by four bulky men in all black, a smaller man with mild, soft face who wouldn't look anyone in the eye. When Redden stepped in, Jocasta's breath hitched, holding Jill tighter, and she heard Chastity cry from across the room. The landlord didn't need to be here unless there was a chance of the moneylender taking collateral. The pod's family huddled together in groups as if according to who owed Mr. Strange money. Elders to the left, Monroe Cadwalders to the right. No one spoke as Mr. Strange pulled out a chair. Mr. Killer. Ah, yes, the soft-faced man said anxiously, sitting down in the middle of the table and pulling out a leather-bound notebook. Miss Marsali Elder, 5,000 silver quail. Jocasta saw her mother fall back, Uncle Hoss reaching out to steady her upright, just as John Boy claimed. We only borrowed 5,000 copper quail. Interesting, my boy, Mr. Killer said remorsefully. Whatever the case, it appears you've managed to pay just under half of that. Both men looked at the elders expectantly. I can pay, Mom said, turning around, shaking as she walked towards her bunk. As she nearly fell over, both John Boy and Uncle Hoss managed to catch her, holding her upright. Of course, the moneylender would come to collect on the same day Mom's fever relapsed. "It's all right. We got you," John Boy assured her as they walked her to where she hid their savings. In the other corner, baby Tamsman started to cry as the man looked at the ledger again. Eli Cadwallader, 5,000 silver quail as well. "But ours were copper too," Chastity's twin sister Charity shouted. "You might want to have your tenants better educated, Redden," Mr. Strange commented. On his way to the bunk, Eli walked, and Aunt Tamsin on the way to the bunks, Eli walked, and Aunt Tansman on the way to the bunks, Eli walked, and Aunt Tamsin nearly dropped the baby. Jocasta squirmed uncomfortably. She had never seen someone speak with such disrespect to an aristocrat. By then, Mom made it to the table with a small bag of money. John Boy and Uncle Hoss still holding her steady, months of saving and selling flowers outside of the village church. Would it be enough to buy them more time? Mr. Killer took the copper and silver coins out and began to count. 200 silver quail and 4 copper. Just then, Eli tentatively approached with a stack of coins wrapped in an old handkerchief and set it down on the table. Mr. Killer unwrapped it, revealing 1 rose gold coin sat atop a pile of silver and copper. In shock, Jocasta looked over at Charity. What had she done? Mr. Killer seemed oblivious to everyone's shocked confusion, counting out the coins. 1 gold quail, 50 silver, and 3 copper. After a beat, he added, "Even if the debt isn't completely cleared, they've both made ample payments." The air was thick and tense, waiting for Mr. Strange's response. He pointed to Charity and Jocasta. "There's still 2 more beds to fill at the bride school. Take the oldest girls from both families." Jocasta nearly dropped Jill, her heart plummeting. "What?" Jocasta's mother let out a shriek, falling to the ground as John Boy tried to get between Jocasta and the hired muscle moving in on her, only to be shoved out of the way. "John Boy!" she shouted as she felt thick fingers digging to her arm as a thug pried her little sister out of her hands, kicking and screaming, sending Jocasta into a panic. "Please, don't hurt her. I'll do whatever you want. Just please leave her alone." The man simply placed her thrashing little sister on the ground, then grabbed Jocasta roughly by the arm just as one of the other men screamed in pain. The whole room went quiet, all eyes suddenly on the dark-haired man, holding on to his hand. Charity in a disheveled heap at his feet. "That cow bit me!" the man hissed, his eyes closed. Jocasta's legs trembled. No clue what would happen next, just that it would be bad. "Very well," Mr. Strange said, his voice stone. "Take the other in her place. They're identical anyways." Glancing over at little Eddie, he added with a flick of his own hand. "Oh, and take the boy for Shane's medical costs. I always need more couriers." Chastity burst into tears as one of the thugs pinned her arms behind her back, dragging both her and Jocasta towards the door, the girls helplessly watching as the remaining goon scooped up Eddie, who kicked and screamed. "Please, the boy's my wife's," Eli begged. "We weren't even married when I borrowed." "This isn't over the money. It's for the hand," Mr. Strange responded with a hand wave, walking out the door. "Take me!" Charity shouted, struggling to get to her feet. "I'm the one you wanted. Take me!" Jocasta struggled to get free as she was dragged through the doorway, reaching for her family as they followed, reaching for Chastity and Eddie, only to be pulled away from them all and out the door. In front of the pod was a tin-colored hover carriage, a tiger painted on its side, not unlike the one on the mech centuries ago, except it was white instead of orange. That was when Mr. Strange took Eddie by the arm with such force that he shouted in pain. "Stop it!" Jocasta shouted, struggling to get free while Chastity wailed for her stepbrother. The door to the carriage slid open, the inside so dimly lit nothing was visible. Suddenly, Jocasta found herself falling towards the dark as she hit the carriage floor, her legs and arms throbbing with a dull pain. "Joe," Chastity got out between sobs. Jocasta crawled to her, pulling the other teenager into an embrace as the door shut with an anticlimactic click, engulfing them in darkness. Excellent tension in this. Also excellent use of action or writing of action, which can actually be really hard because you don't want to be repetitive. You don't want to make it last too long because that also deflates the tension of it. This was very fast paced, very well written, and just kept it elevated to high tension the whole way through, which you would think that you can't make a situation like that low tension, but believe me, I have seen tension deflate. The next story is by Valorie Beaudyka. The Dark Rider stood beneath the dull tree like the specter of death itself, looming over the barley fields like a wizard's tower carved from the blackest obsidian. At first we took it from a drog risen up from the crypts beyond the forest's edge, but when the sun failed to banish the specter, we knew it could be one thing. "It's dog soldiers," Auntie Blanche whispered as she gathered the barley into sheaves. "Come to burn our village and raid our stores for the winter." "Then where's his headdress?" my brother responded dismissively. "Where's his lance, his rifle, his dog?" "You tell me, Elric," Blanche sneered. "They're your kin, ain't they?" "Yours too, sister," Uncle Peter laughed as he struck down another bundle of barley with his scythe. "And I don't recall you complaining none when Lil Ock's sister gave you that nice wool blanket last winter." Auntie Blanche's face reddened and her brother laughed. "'Sides, he won't do nothin' to us, 'slong as we don't do nothin' to him." "My husband, God rest his soul, didn't do nothin' to them either." Auntie Blanche spat on the ground and rubbed the spittle into the dirt with the toe of her boot. "Didn't stop 'em from burning our village and skinning my Johnny and trussing him up like a slaughtered buck. That wasn't them." Elric threw down his scythe like a gauntlet. "We all know that was the work of the rail barons." "I know what I saw, traitor," Elric finished. "I was going to say brat." "Sure you were, you hateful old crone." "Easy, easy. There's no call for that from either of you two." Uncle Peter raised his hands and tried to step between them. Elric clenched his fists and pushed past his uncle. "Tell me, Auntie, what offends you more about little Hawk, his nation or his gender?" Auntie Blanche rose to her feet and glowered down on her brother. "Soldiers are soldiers, whomever they serve, boy. Whether they fight for the barons, the khans, the petro princes, or the High King himself. They're all just a bunch of thieving, murdering, raping, pillaging marauders." "You feel the same way about Danny and Uncle Peter, or just your husband?" "Hey guys!" "What?" I cleared my throat and gestured toward the hill. Shame and horror crept into their eyes as their faces paled. The Ritter was gone. Auntie cursed under her breath, and Uncle Peter whispered a prayer. My brother just looked at me, dumbstruck. "You three stay here. I'm going to check it." My brother grabbed his scythe from the ground. "I'm coming with you." "No, you're not." "Maybe he should go up with Danny," Auntie Blanche offered sheepishly. "If it is a dog soldier," Uncle Peter cut in, "maybe Elric could." "It's not a dog soldier. Dog soldiers don't wear the livery of rubber knights." "Rubber knights?" Peter gripped his scythe tightly. "Brimmed hat, long coat, raven black steed." Elric bit his thumb. "You don't think?" "I don't know." I hefted my scythe around so that I could swing it like a spear. "But I'm going to find out. If you're not back in 10 minutes, we're coming up after you." Auntie Blanche called after. "If I'm not back in 10 minutes, go warn the others." I crept through the barley like a wildcat through the brush, low and slow, just as my father taught me. Rowan's Oak was a free village. No lords, no princes, no barons, no khans, no masters, no kings. And if this Robberknot thought that made us weak, he was in for a rude awakening. My grandfather's grandfather bled a hedge-slinger on a sickle in the Great Rising. I'd gladly do him proud and shed this Robberknot's blood on my scythe. At the top of the Moot Hill, beneath the shade of the ancient oak tree, I spied the dog-eyed steed of the Robber Knight pawing at the ground with a clawed tree-toed hoof. The mutant horse was adorned with a walnut bridle and cavalry saddle laden in the front with a long, double-barreled shotgun and a pair of saddlebags and canteens in the rear. But where was the mysterious Robberknot hunting these fields? A massive weight tackled me from behind. I saw the scythe fly through the air as my head slammed into the ground. I tasted blood and dust. It was the knight. But how? I scrambled for the scythe, kicking and gouging in the dirt as the knight tried to pin me to the ground. A fist shoved my face into the ground and twisted my arm behind my back. I thrashed about like a fish on a line. But it was no good. My unseen assailant just shoved my face deeper into the dirt. This was it. I was dead. Say it, the knight mocked in a contralto drawl. Her voice was strange, somehow familiar but unfamiliar at the same time. What? Say it. Each punctuated word scratched at my brain, mocking me with an unplaceable familiarity. Somehow, some way, I knew the voice of the woman twisting my arm behind me. Say what? Don't tell me you've forgotten the words, the knight laughed mockingly. We used to play the little game all the time when we were kids. It's just 5 little words, Danny. Say 'em. 5 little words? A game that we used to play? What was she? A light went off in my head like a flash of a camera. Ugh, I groused as I suddenly realized the game that we were playing and who I was playing it with. You can't be serious. We're not kids anymore. Oh, but I am, Danny. I couldn't see her face, but somehow I knew that she was smiling like a fat cat with a live mouse. And if you want up, well, you know what I want to hear. I gave one final thrash in a futile efforts to break her pin. Fine, I said. Uncle, my best of uncles. Instantly, the knight released me and twisted over. Towering above me, clad in a black duster and straw gambler's hat, was Ripley Day Jackson in the flesh. 10 years older, but still the same girl who used to twist my arm into playing hooky and kissed me under the shade of the willow tree all those years ago. Ripley smiled warmly and extended a hand that I reluctantly took. It's been a while, hasn't it, Danny O'Driscoll? Ripley laughed as she pulled me to my feet and punched me tenderly in the arm. 10 years at least, I laughed nervously. I see you cut your hair short. It fits you. Ripley snorted at my amateurish attempt at small talk. So, where you been, Rip? Ripley stepped back and rubbed the back of her neck awkwardly. She was carrying something on her back, some kind of pack or bedroll or something, but I couldn't quite tell what. Oh, you know, here and there and everywhere, until a couple months ago I was back east in the Principates. And what brings you back home after so long? I eyed Ripley suspiciously. Between the shotgun on her saddle and the dragon pistol that was just barely visible past the flaps of her coat, it was clear she'd not been living a peaceful life in those 10 years past. Couple of things, really. It's a bit of a long story, though. Ripley shifted her weight awkwardly. You, for one. And for another, Ripley gripped the straps of her pack and swung it around gently, revealing a red-headed babe bundled up in a small cradle board. Her. Who is that? This is my daughter, Josephine Isabella Jackson. You are so good at, casual world building that when you're bringing in words that are unique to your world, it introduces them by just using them in context, which sounds like a simple concept. It's only a simple concept if you know how to do it, because a lot of people don't know how to do it. But that's also what mastery looks like when it's done well, is that it makes it look so much easier. It's also the sort of thing that makes people feel like, oh yeah, I can just do that because look at how easy it's made to look. And then they try and it doesn't read as easy. But you always do such an excellent job introducing your unique world building items and words that it's delightful to read new parts of that story. I mean, I know it's the same story because it's got Josephine in it, and I recognize Josephine. The next story is by Egao Chan, who, by the way, is working on his next book. Keep an eye out for that. He said that it's trucking along, and I think that it's supposed to come out in the next couple of months. 3 questions. Earth Day, 3401 of duty. Blaine walks the marble and stone floor of the human structure many called palace. The sun is high up in the sky, and this exact moment of time was what humans called afternoon to denote the moment relative to the middle of the day. The arches and gates were nothing but structures and designs of beauty and art to Blaine. He has seen much, yet such sight is always welcome, for the grim scenery of the realm beyond the bridge and the fog is as dull as it's eternal. The beings that change are of intrigue and wonder, though fleeting in nature. The king laid on his bed, a golden goblet on the floor by his bedside. His face was pale. The corners of his mouth were covered in foam. This was Blaine's responsibility on this Earth Day. King Seer, Blaine commands. Your time is now. I am your guide. Off to the bridge and into the fog you shall go. King Seer awoke and sat up in his bed, refreshed but confused. Who are you? He asked. My name is of no importance nor meaning to you. I am only your guide, Blaine answers. King Seer, looked back. He almost jumped as he saw himself on the bed. He reached for his own face and neck, only to see his hand passing through his skin and flesh. Am I dead? The Human King asked with a trembling voice. Yes, Blaine nodded and answered. 35 Earth years, 5 Earth months, and 13 Earth days since your first breath. You exhaled your last breath. Why? What? How? King Seer scratched his head, frustrated and angered at the missing crown on his head. Tell me, how? You are afforded 3 questions, Blaine answered. When the last question is given, you will have no choice but to follow. Have your answers or don't. You are still to come with me, King Seer screamed and tried to kick the golden goblet on the ground only to miss and almost throw himself on the ground. You are but your soul. Take all the time you need, Blaine nodded at the king. A day, a year, 100 years, it matters not. Time stops flowing when you see me. Okay. King Seer took a deep breath and mumbled. 3 questions. 3 questions. He shook his head, nodded to himself, and then asked, How did I die? Your heart stopped beating. From a substance you and humans of your time and locale called the Banshee's kiss. Blaine paused for a brief moment, watching the Human King's reaction to his answer. Procured by your brother Coxton Seer. So it was him! King Seer buried his face in his palms. He screamed once again, punching and kicking the air a few times before he finally calmed down. What happens with Moira and Bryce? Moira Seer became queen to King Coxton Seer, 1 Earth year and 3 Earth days since your passing. Bryce Seer was exiled to a locale you called the Northern Lands, 2 months since your passing, Blaine answered. Moira Seer passed from blood loss and asphyxiation from a blade through her left lung. 5 Earth years, 1 month, 5 Earth years, 1 Earth month, and 3 Earth days since your passing. Bryce Seer passed from various diseases in the Northern Lands, 2 Earth years since your passing. King Seer pondered a little on the answer, before his face was instantly covered with fury and anguish. You whore! You heartless, cruel whore! He screamed at the sky and clawed his own face. It hurt him, but left no wound. How could you do this to me? To our son, how could you? Blaine waited for the Human King to cry himself into a powerless, slobbering mess. Souls didn't tire from exertion or movement, but from fresh memories when they were still flesh-bound. It was the most intricate work of art from the creator of all. One of the greatest wonders, really. Tell me that bastard dies a horrible death. Tell me about how brutal, graceless his death is. The Human King stared at Blaine. His eyes were red, veins popping out of his forehead. Blaine considered for a moment. It was this man's last question. It seemed a longer answer to make his job today easier. King Coxton Seer died of blood loss and shock from a blade severing his head 5 Earth years, 1 Earth month, and 3 Earth days since your passing. His killer was Ray's Seers, a man whom you begot 20 Earth years, 2 Earth months, and 5 Earth days since your first breath in the Northern Lands. His mother was what you would call a peasant woman, with no family name, with a single name. Summer, King Seer whispered. The Human King came with Blaine without resistance. He cried and laughed the whole way, till he reached the bridge. Thank you, Master Death. The Human King bowed to Blaine. For your guidance. Just my duty, King Seer. Blaine bowed back. May you have a sound travel through the bridge. King Seer turned around and looked up at the grim sky, then began his stride onto the bridge with a folk song of his people. Oh, the mountains high, oh, the wind cold. Father, mother, my ancestors, your son is coming home. Oh, ready your food and drink and hugs, for your son is coming home. The wall of fog at the end of the bridge opened up. The Human King took a final look back. Then, in he went. Very nice. Also, it sounds like a very violent death for all of them. It sounds like Mr. Guy here was poisoned by family. The throne was taken. His wife was taken. And then the traitors got stabbed by an illegitimate son of his. So, I mean, That's long-term planning right there. The next story is by F. Jeremiah Chamberlain. The further Akiavera followed the dressed man, the less sure of his surroundings he became. It was one thing to be stalked by Loretons waiting behind any and every tree trunk with a rifle or a sack of grenades, but it was another entirely when some unknown party was collecting the bodies of comrades while dressing and acting like them. Dehydration started to sap away at his strength again. Wanting fresh water and baking in a terribly humid heat of the afternoon took their toll now more than ever. The light in the trees was fading, but it would be another few hours before the air trapped underneath cooled off in turn. But he wouldn't be able to see further than a few meters ahead far before then. The man he was trailing stopped to speak to another walking in the opposite direction. Akiavera hid in densely vegetated copse, close enough to still see, but too far to hear. Beyond them, lit by the light of a few fires, was a large mound that grew out of the forest floor. The silhouettes of other figures came from different angles to deposit bodies of their own into the pile, throwing the corpses wherever they would fit before turning back for more. Akiavera leaned back against a tree and took a sip of his precious water. He splashed a little on his face in the hopes that it would wake him up. It only mingled with and diluted the sweat on his brow. Of course it didn't work. This was the Amazon. There was no easy way out of this hell. By the time he finished, the two uniformed men had also finished conversing. The one Akiavera trailed continued on to the pile, and his friend made his way over to the his friend made his way over to the copse. Akiavera swore, pressed himself into the shadows, and drew his bayonet before he could get close enough to hear. The man stopped right at the edge of the copse, adjusted the rifle slung over his shoulder, and began working his fly. Akiavera took his chance. The broken, jagged point of his blade sank deep into his throat. Blood splurted out of the wound and bubbled where steel met flesh. The shock flooded the man's eyes as he started to gargle on his own blood. Akiavera yanked him into the shadows and clamped his free hand over the mouth to muffle the sound. A few seconds later, he went limp. Akiavera wiped the blood off of his hand and the bayonet onto his prey's clothing. Being careful to avoid both the blood seeping out of his neck and the urine staining his trousers, he pilfered the body for everything it had. A Mauser 1912 with 36 rounds of ammunition, papers of some kind or another that were slightly damp, field rations, and a canteen nearly full of water. He couldn't help himself before half of it was gone. He felt like a glutton downing so much of it. Knowing that he couldn't stay there, he stepped out of the copse and into what little light was left. He played with his fly in case anyone was watching before walking out at a casual pace. Everyone around him wore the same tropical combat fatigues of the Federal Army, yet he had no idea who they really were. He felt cold in a strange, lonely way, surrounded by so many unknowns. He did his best to relish the sensation while the heat wore him down. A sudden gust of wind, Akiavera couldn't tell what cardinal direction it was from, blew toward him from where the pile of corpses was. He nearly retched from the smell. Shocking, also, was how bad the stench was, for they couldn't have been dead more than a couple of days. That was when the Laurentians finally sprang their trap on the 66th Republican Guard's left flank. He shifted his rifle from his shoulders to his hands to mask the impulse, for none of the other guards around him reacted to the stench. What the hell is going on here? Another gust of wind hit him. Instead of putrid horror, though, this one brought with it something faint and fragile. He thought his mind was going again, but the sound repeated and persisted. It almost sounded like Raoul. He looked off to the left where the sound came from. Raoul! There were only trees and shadows in that direction, all masking the hungry maw of the Amazon. Raoul! A mere whisper in the wind pierced. Raoul! A mere whisper in the wind pierced the dark veil. Akiavera looked around to check if anyone had heard or was watching him. No one took interest in his business, so he followed the whisper off the burned-out path and into the dense, dark rainforest. I really love reading this story, Jeremiah. Like, the setting is great. It's got an awesome sense of tension and a horror in a very casual way. It does an excellent job with creating the scene, and also with making the story and not using dialogue, and it's been mostly, not entirely, because you've also got like hints of monsters, especially here and there, and also the use of death in it. But it does an excellent job of moving the story and building the tension and sustaining the interest and the character without dialogue, without involving other characters. And it is just, your writing is so nice to read, and I always look forward to when we get more of this story. I don't know, it's really cool to read, and I'm so intrigued to see where it goes. The next story is by Anonymous. She could hear the man's heavy footfalls. The dry wheat stubble crushed noisily as he trundled out onto it. Irina twisted her lank body to look and see. A giant gray man was coming. "Papa," the girl said. "Papa, I think that's one of the inmates," she said breathlessly. Franklin looked up at his daughter. Her booted feet were planted firmly in the long wheat stubble. Her gloved hands rested around the wheat sheaf that she had just lifted. Her head was covered. The girl's face was turned away. "Irina, come here," he told his daughter. In a moment, his daughter was by his side, and she pointed out a giant gray man on the field. He stooped and started stooking sheaves himself. They aren't supposed to be," Irina started to speak, but then she was silent as she watched him make up perfect stooks. His huge body was slow, abdominally obese, but with his long limbs, he made up the stooks very quickly. "No, don't touch him!" "No, don't worry about that." One of the hired men was drawing up near to the giant then, and paused simply, not knowing what it would have been that he would have done with him anyway. The giant passed without a word, going down the row and making it all up into neat erect stooks. Franklin watched apprehensively. The same time, Irina's face softened. The giant man alone was working. Sweat had broken on his saponaceous skin. In a wish for another cool breeze to come for them, the lank child consulted the weathercock that hung high in the distance in the air. Above all, the holy cockeriel with long metallic stickle feathers ready to catch the wind. It did not budge. The air wasn't moving. Irina looked again at the man, and she could see things his way, even if it meant hot work, and even if the inmates were not to be let out to the fields anymore. He wanted to be here. The big ornate iron grill tossed open in the distance, and a gasoline tractor with a separator and empty rack passed through onto the fields below the sanatorium. "The gangs are here. If the law said that the inmates could no longer work in the fields, then custom harvesters would have to be paid for the work." Franklin needed the work, and for the summer young Irina had the time to work for her family with him. She and her papa moved to a new row and carried on stooking while the anxious but docile giant never stopped. His shirt was soon soaked with sweat, but his sweat didn't bother him. He was safe here. He was working and he was happy. The idiot schizophrenic was being well behaved after a long time, effectively being tortured. However, when he had been told he and the other inmates would not be allowed to harvest the crop this year, he wouldn't listen, and he, whenever possessed by a sense of urgency, was known to walk right through doors. After the full course of wet shock, he was huge. This therapy had meant injections of animal insulin 6 days a week over the course of months, and it made him obese. He was slow and docile, but only so much the more terrifyingly larger. Many times he was beaten with cane rods in an effort to break his muscles, but in vain. His body was as powerful as ever. Over the next harvest days, a few more inmates joined. The help was, even if apprehensively, welcomed. So many young fit men were gone from the country to the war in the Far East then that there was no ample enlistment in this year's harvest. The stooked wheat stood all over the cut fields and was good and dry from the heat. The separator was running briskly, spouting the golden grain directly into plywood granary and blowing rolling swells of straw all around while it was fed by a small team of pitchers. Franklin stole his way inside the granary, where he found his daughter helping to spread around the grain. He took the girl outside with him and spoke to her. "I want you somewhere I can see you," he said to Irina. He helped Irina climb up top of the loaded rack, and she drew up a pitchfork and pitched the wheat sheaves into the machine's ebullient mouth. Franklin could see his daughter from where he was, wherever he was. Some of the old teamsters did stare at her while she was up there, but the man thought his daughter safe. Somebody shouted at Franklin over the noise, and he took up the nearby gasoline can and poured it into the tractor's fuel tank as quick as he could while the thing belched flame from its blackened exhaust and chugged as it ran the big drive belt so briskly. When food was brought to them, Franklin called Irina down, and the papa-daughter pair broke from work together to eat. "I wonder what the crew thinks of the hospital food," Irina giggled. "Oh, it must be very different. Very different," Papa laughed. "The staff in the sanatorium here, they have no pride. The farm women do, and know just how the thresher gangs judge them," he added. They ate the Salisbury steak with a heavy salty gravy, and Irina had a big slice of raisin pie, swallowing her cup of cold cambric tea. She didn't feel good after this. As another loaded rack moved up to the separator, she went to go climb up on. She was slow, and the girl furtively consulted the weathercock once again, looking up at the big dark building on the hill where it hung so high up. Nothing had changed. She hauled herself up, was in direct sunlight again, and there was still no breeze up there to cool her. She went back to work like this. She might have been sluggish after eating, but she stayed there, pitching the sheaves in the separator at a slower pace. The crushed stubble of the ground below was then like a sheet of hammered gold, and upon it the giant gray man was standing, watching the girl from below. The tractor stalled abruptly, as if something smacked the life out of it. A great big car roared out over the wheat stubble. Franklin's daughter had fallen in the separator. She had been heat-stricken, and the epilepsy had toppled the girl into the mouth of the machine. It ate her, breaking her head and pulling her in. The empty back seat of the car was bloody as the large, glittering vehicle lay idling outside the doors to the sanatorium. The old surgeon took a long drag of his cigarette before dropping it straight into the asbestos linoleum at his feet and stamping it out with the heel of his boot. Papa called Mama over the telephone. The same time, a male nurse went out the door, outside, and down into the fields. They walked up to a big straw pile there by the separator. "It's all right. You can show me it's all right." There, in the straw, was the jumbo inmate. He had pulled the running drive belt away from the separator when Irina fell in it. He had stalled the tractor engine, too. He had stalled the tractor's engine, too, at the same time. "That little Mae's, too. She should be all right," the male nurse added finally. I don't know what I was expecting going into this, but what an interesting piece. Something very simple, something very just normal working, and then kind of going into a casual horror of also just working yourself into sickness and what comes with that. Excellent. Very interesting vibe and setting, and great descriptions of the fields that they are working in, giving it a heavy feeling to it. The next story is also by Anonymous, a different Anonymous, theoretically. Harry had just gotten back to his hometown after his vacation, and he went out on the grid road straight away to inspect the crop that he had in the field below his parents' empty old farmhouse. Him and his brothers were farming all this now. But in point of fact, neither him nor his brothers, Les and Tim, had been out here since seeding. Les and Tim were both far away and in a different country, each on their own vacation. They would not be back yet. Harry stopped his car at the roadside and stepped out with his briefcase that he set on the hood of his car while he looked out at his crop. He couldn't remember what had been planted at seeding, and looking at it now, he couldn't tell. This was not good. And so Harry walked out into the field and assessed what there might be to assess. He took photographs. "Hail damage," he wrote below the pictures. If things went easy, he could collect the insurance money before his brothers got back home, and then he could go away on his next vacation. In a week or so it was done. He was collecting the crop insurance. All he had to do was destroy what was left of the crop, and he could rest easy. Harry drove up the hill to the old empty farmyard and backed his car up to the tottering tractor shed. He levered the spraying tank and everything into the open trunk of the car, filled it with water and a few gallon jugs of bleach. He took his car through the fields like this, and when the job was done, he dumped the sprayer in a ditch and roared away down the road in a cloud of dust. When Tim was back again, still in a Hawaiian shirt, there was nothing to do but turn the earth over and plow the lifeless plants under. He was still up on the old tractor when Les came home. Tim stopped the tractor and went to talk with him. "Harry," Tim explained. "Yeah, I'm so jealous." He's going to Tahiti next. I only ever been there once, groaned Les. Hey, Mom's house looks pretty bad, he added, looking up at the great rotted farmhouse. Tahiti? Is he gonna run into Dutch? Is that why they're going to Tahiti? I only know of criminals that go to Tahiti. So, it makes sense. This guy collecting on scam insurance money after he burnt and destroyed his own farm and had nothing to do with it, makes sense. Makes sense. The last story this month is by R.S. Alessi. Look out! It's the crazy old cat lady! The shouted warning compels me to look up from my yard work. I spot 3 kids across the street standing atop motorized scooters. One of them is pointing at me, so I assume they mean me. I'm 46 years old, which is not nearly as old as they think it is, but I do own a lot of cats and I could be called crazy. I bare my teeth in what I hope looks like a smile. It's been a while since I've smiled at anyone. She's put a curse on us! Let's get out of here! The 3 kids speed off on their scooters. I watch them zip out of sight. These things end one of 2 ways, and, for their sakes, I hope they put our encounter out of their mind. It's an hour before I have the yard tidied. A cat lady I might be, but I'm no slob. Not a weed is in sight. The dead leaves have been trimmed and discarded, and the gravel path has been raked clean. I hear my cats mewing from an open window in the house. Hold on, dears. I'll be right in. Unlike normal cat ladies, I haven't accumulated my cats because I can't be bothered to get them fixed. Each of these kitties came to me of their own accord at various ages and for various reasons, and I gave them a home. They swore my ankles when I opened the door, and I wade through their furry bodies on my way to the kitchen. Have you finished your food? Of course you have, my little piggies. They want more, so I feed them. If I took them to the vet for annual checkups, I'm sure I'd be told they're overweight. I don't care. They're happy, and that's what matters to me. It's 10 p.m. when the doorbell rings. I sigh. Those children should have minded their own. Same goes for the tax appraiser, that nice police officer, and the neighbor who kept peeking over the back fence. It's not like I can control what happens next. I can only accept the outcome. Curses are like that. I open my front door. On the steps sits 3 cats. Not quite kittens, but not quite adults. Oh, you poor dears. You may as well come in. The confused kitties allow me to shoo them inside, where they are greeted by the rest of my herd. I pat their furry heads. I'd warn you about wishing harm on witches, but it's too late for that. I bare my teeth as I shut the door. Welcome to your new home. Oh my gosh, the Mango Witch has also become the cat keeper. I love it. I am headcanoning that this is the Mango Witch with the mango tree in the front yard that curses people as well. This is a death trap house. And by death trap, I mean, you could be cursed to become a cat. And is that so bad? I love it. I love the simplicity of like the scene, the moment. Like it gets, I say simplicity in just like it delivers exactly. It is short, it is sweet, and it is just fun. It's just a fun story. And I think when I say simplicity, I mean it is difficult to deliver something so perfectly short that just gets it. That is just enjoyable. It is what it is, and it introduces you to everything that you need and closes it out. It's wonderful. This is a great short story, and it is perfect as it is. So those are all of the stories for this month about collecting of things or a collection happening. A great variety as always. I love your guys' variations and your creativity. And let me know what your favorite story was in the comments below if you can decide. With that said, have a great weekend. Good luck on your goals or wishes for this month, and have a good weekend. Don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Ike, and Annabelle. If you forget everything else I ever said in the lifetime we shared together, I need you to remember 3 things. 1. Minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature, God's design, to do harm, and every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a black widow. A woman who destroys the life and the mercy of her care for no other reason but the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these kinds of women that you should put them down, for they are no better than the men who tarnished them. However, Take no glee in what must be done. Finding any life so far gone, a black hole is where someone's heart should be, leaves only one solution. The mercy of death, and it's a tragedy when it happens. Make no mistake, a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God sees worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she's living. That is why the devil will do everything he can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you can commit during your lifetime, be it out of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent. For the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, extending further than you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach. Think about every decision you make, every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you, be them destructions or blessings, rumors or history been made. The truth of the matter is, your life will be controlled not by the truth of what you've done, but by the way others carry on about you. And the thoughts of others are more real in the long term than what you know to be true. It won't stop affecting you just because it ain't real, and no matter the life you've lived, most men can't outrun what's written in them in ink. It ain't hopeless though. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the means of the news of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than a family you build for yourself. What you put together is worth fighting for. Protect your loved ones with your life, and they'll give theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for those you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult to theirs will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man who hates you will stop at nothing until one of you is dead. It's a mistake to believe anything different. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw lawmen or by someone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and your kin. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years I've seen the worst of man, I ain't found another way around man's desire to conquer against all else. There ain't a changing of that mind, and sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, least of all through lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I don't want to be right. But what I do want is for my kids to live a better life than the one I did and avoid the mistakes that I made while finding the truth and purpose in what matter more than gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned that my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done isn't what people remember me for, but who y'all are going to become. That'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.